Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So as Scottie Scheffler played his last major for some time, given his arrest and felony charges, has Valhalla hosted its last major for some time because of what happened with the Scottie Scheffler incident. We're going to talk to Barry Cronin about that momentarily. But just to, in case you missed it, which you shouldn't have, because everybody should have been riveted to their TVs this weekend because it's a major. I mean, good grief. Anyway, Scottie, after his arrest on Friday morning, and after he played and responded as a champion would, I think he shot 66, I think 66 on Friday.
I thought 65, then
Finished 13 under, so he was out of it because he played poorly on Saturday. We'll talk to Barry about that too. But Scheffler on on Friday after the second round and his first arrest, had this to say.
Yeah, first of all, my sympathies go out to the family, Mr. Mills. My situation will get handled. It was just it was a chaotic situation and a big misunderstanding. I said, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to my tee time. But no, at no point did I try to name drop myself to diffuse the situation. I just tried to remain as calm as possible and just follow instructions. I did spend some time stretching in a jail cell. That was a first for me. That was part of my warm-up. I was just sitting there waiting, and I asked him, I was like, hey, excuse me, can you just come hang out with me for a few minutes so I can calm down? There was a TV there, and I could see myself on the TV on ESPN, and it was Get Up was on, and so in the corner it showed the time, and it said they were delayed, and I was kind of thinking about my tee time. I was like, well, maybe, I could be able to get out. I definitely never imagined ever going to jail, and I definitely never imagined going to jail the morning before one of my tee times for sure, but it was nice to be able to get inside the ropes and do what I love to do. I love competing out here on tour. I love playing in major championships, and I've kept myself in the tournament now with a pretty chaotic day, and so I'm going to go from here and focus on getting some rest and recovery and getting ready for a grind the last 2 days, and we'll see how the leaderboard shakes out, but hopefully I won't be too far back going into tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't, then he was after Saturday. Could you imagine? A friend of mine made this observation. Could you imagine, maybe you were essentially at the Louisville Metro detention center because you were drunk or something, and you wake up and Scottie Scheffler sitting next to you in the cell? He's like, "Wait, am I that? Did I drink that much that I think I think Scottie Scheffler was in jail with me?" Okay. All right, let's get some perspective. He's not a law enforcement professional, but he is a professional sports reporter, particularly on the great sport of golf. He is in Rock Island today. He's the media director for the John Deere Classic in Illinois, where defending champ Seb Straka will be in town to promote this year's tournament, which is July 4 to the 7th. He's also the editor of Chicago District's CDGA's Golfer magazine, Illinois' largest golf magazine with more than 100,000 readers. He's Barry Cronin. He joins us now. Barry, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Who knew you could watch Get Up and ESPN when you're in the clink?
Yeah.
Like Otis. Remember Otis from the Andy Griffith Show? He'd go in there and sleep it off, but if there was TV, he'd never leave.
Well, exactly.
Times have changed.
Yeah. It was nice, nice coming. And he had enough room to do his Tai Chi or his stretching exercises too before the round, which is helpful.
Well, if golf had walk-up music, he'd be Folsom Prison Blues.
No question. No, or maybe Now You're Messing with an SOB, something like that. So I know this story is not going to go away for some time, including because we don't know for sure what's going to happen with the charges that have been filed against him. We'll find out more tomorrow, I suppose. But on the golf management side of it, we talked a little bit about this on Friday, but you're closer to it. I mean, does the PGA of America, the governing body that's hosted this tournament at Valhalla, do they have some culpability here?
Well, I mean, culpability, I don't know, Dan. I mean, so just to explain to people, the PGA of America goes in a couple or 3 years beforehand to kind of organize the logistics of these tournaments, which are very complicated. And I think the problem is they don't have a place for the players to come in separately. Yep. They've got one road in and one road out of that club, and that's, that really makes it complicated, especially when you have a situation where you have weather, fog, and then you have this terrible accident where this man was killed. It was really a mess. But what's crazy is that Scottie's driving a marked courtesy car. He has a badge identifying who he is. He doesn't have to name drop anybody. I think he could just show him his ID or whatever. And they all have a badge to play in the tournament. So it really doesn't make sense. And when you play that interview, first of all, that interview was just terrific. But I don't think he says, "Yeah, my thing will get handled. It's no big deal." Like he just got a traffic ticket or something. But when I was sitting there watching that, you sit there and go, "Wait a minute, dude! You were charged with a felony."
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what happened then, and here's the other idiotic thing that happened. Talk about management. His management allowed him to talk to his attorney before he went out and played on Saturday afternoon. So the attorney, I guess, probably told him, "Hey, dude, you were charged with a felony."
Well,
couldn't that have waited? Couldn't that conversation maybe have waited till after the tournament? Because I got to think, that
it got into his head a little bit.
Well, you know what? I think he probably, how it is when you're in an accident or something happens to you, you're kind of in shock, and you say, "Well, I want to just go on and do my thing, do what I was doing." And the doctors or your family have to pull you in and say, "Wait a minute, you something happened to you. You need to do it." But he played through it on Saturday, and then on Friday, and then on Saturday, I think it all kind of hit him.
Right. Well, if you read, Detective Brian Gillis is the one that stopped him. And the report said subject refused to comply and accelerated forward, dragging Detective Gillis to the ground. Detective Gillis suffers pain, swelling, abrasions in his left wrist and knee. He was transported to the hospital for further medical treatment, and they said that his uniform was damaged after he was dragged alongside his car. Now, we did have a retired Chicago detective of 25 years call in and say, you never grab onto a car ever, that was the officer's mistake. But regardless, he has a court appearance tomorrow. No charges have been dropped, and I keep hearing from Barstool and other publications, Outkick, that these charges are going to be dropped, and they haven't so far. So do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, there has been some reporting, and I wouldn't exactly make Barstool my
outlet of record. Yeah, right.
But there has been some reporting, which I think is a little more reliable, that they're going to drop the charges. The mayor of Louisville came out the other day and said there is no body cam video of the incident. So the idea that he was dragged and I think it was 10 to 20 yards. I don't know how far that is. I don't know.
So you think it was like a little punch and run shot then, if it's just a 10 to.
Yeah. Well, he jumped up on the median. But two other cars before him did the same thing.
Yeah, Barry's not a law enforcement officer.
No, I know, but
he's not a prosecutor.
And the other thing is you had two other golfers who abandoned their cars and just walked in.
Yeah.
So it was really a mess. And the whole thing is so inconsistent with Scottie Scheffler's character as a person that we all seem to know who he is. And now all of a sudden he's dragging an officer next to a car. I don't know. I got it. And then you have your policeman who called and said it wasn't really not in police protocol to grab onto a car. Only in the movies, I think.
Yeah, it's right. He went full William Shatner there. It sounded like a little bit of an overreaction, but or maybe Heather Locklear, if you prefer. I don't want to be sexist. But what about? Police and also the club. The response to the exigent circumstance there of the accident and the inclement weather and the traffic jam, knowing these guys are trying to get in. I'm sure there were phone calls going back and forth, and it just doesn't sound like there was any sort of proper evasive action taken to accommodate what police were doing to try to control the scene and what the players were doing to try to get in to play the tournament.
Right. I mean, at some point you have to realize. I mean, certainly the PGA of America must have known that you had guys coming in there who were not aware. I mean, I don't think Scottie Scheffler was not aware that his 8:30 tee time had been moved back because of the accident. I mean, I don't think. My impression.
He said he saw it on TV that they had delayed the start.
Exactly.
While he was in prison. Yeah.
While he was in prison, stretching in a jail cell. My favorite.
In an orange jumper.
Favorite, in an orange jumper, which was great. But yeah, you would have thought that there had to have been some accommodation for the players. Not knowing the logistics and the road, but it's easy to sit here, when we're not down there to judge, but honestly, they should have had a way for those players to get in there separately. As you know, Dan, there's probably, there's two ways to get into most clubs.
Right.
You either go in the front or you go in the maintenance barn, but there has to have been some other accommodation for players. I mean, the difficulty with the U.S. Golf Association, which runs the U.S. Open, and the PGA of America, is they move their championships around every year. They're in different places. Whereas at Augusta, it's in one place every year, and so they can make incremental improvements on all this stuff, which they have done in a great way over the years. The fans come in one way, the broadcast people go in another way, and the players can drive down Washington Road in their own lane, and they go up the Magnolia Drive. So it's just a difficult logistical situation for the PGA. But they've been doing it for a long time, and they spend a lot of time down there, and you got to think through these things.
Well, what about for your John Deere Classic? Are you going to have separate entrance for the players,
or at least for Scheffler?
Well.
Are you working on it?
Well, if Scheffler was coming, that'd be a great thing.
Yeah, right.
At our tournaments, as you know, it's a community of about 350,000 people, so we don't have the massive crowds that they had down in Louisville. And we have an event every year. Louisville gets that event, once every 10 years or 15 years, something like that happens down there, and the fans down there responded so well. So we have things managed here, and we do have multiple entrances. Yeah, for sure.
It's got to be. It's probably going to end up being. Assuming that he doesn't get prosecuted with these ridiculous charges, it's probably going to end up being a great thing for Scottie Scheffler and a great thing for golf. I mean, the memes alone are going to go on for weeks yet. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, Dan, I don't know about you, but to me, the PGA this year just had it started out kind of a blah week. I wasn't as excited about it as I was, and I think that, probably a lot of golf fans were not as fired up about Valhalla as, some other tournament sites and everything, the PGA. And boy, that Scottie thing, man, it was just injected a lot of excitement into it, and it was such a wild story, like the most, kind of the most Christian guy on the PGA Tour. All of a sudden, is got one of the great mugshots of all time, and now he's outlaw Scottie Scheffler, Mr. Badass of the PGA Tour. And, and he just had a baby, just became a dad for the first time, and all this wholesome American stuff that everybody finds so boring. And now all of a sudden,
exactly.
Hey, time to kick ass and take some names. Scottie
Well, right.
Scheffler.
He joins the pantheon of PGA mugshots with Daly and Tiger Woods. I mean, it generates a little controversy, generates a little enthusiasm, generates some more attention. I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, but but that's the outcome.
But it kind of is a way, the whole outlaw thing. Those guys all got busted. Johnny Cash's whole big thing about being an outlaw. I mean, he got busted for sleeping in a park somewhere, and they brought him into jail. And it wasn't exactly. And most of these other guys get, back in the day, could get busted for, having a little pot on them. So the whole outlaw thing is overdone. And now in Scottie's case, it's really overdone. But I think it brought a lot more attention to him and a lot more attention to that tournament, which turned out to be just such an exciting ending with Xander Schauffele making that birdie putt on 18 to beat Bryson DeChambeau.
And I think it's the greatest thing to happen in golf since Eileen took the 7-iron to Tiger's Escalade. I mean, I really do.
Tiger looked a little more worse for wear in that mugshot.
Yeah, his mugshot was.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get to stretch. So the live. I mean, so what's going to happen? Are the Saudis ultimately going to take over the tour, or what? It was nice to see not DeChambeau not win yesterday, so you didn't have a live player win the major. But if Rory goes and these dominoes are falling, it doesn't seem like the PGA is in a good position here.
No, I don't think Rory's going to go.
Okay.
I think that it really, when you analyze it, they're Jimmy Dunn, who this is going to be deep in the weeds for your listeners. The guy that helped create the framework agreement that would have merged the PGA Tour and the PIF Saudi Tour. He just resigned from the board last week.
Right.
Because guys on the board. The word is guys on the board. Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, and Tiger Woods. They now have kind of a majority on the board. And those guys don't want to go. They don't want to merge because the problem that they have is all the guys that went got big money. Dustin Johnson, Brooks,
of course.
Bryson DeChambeau, they got big money, and they can't get over the fact that those guys took the money and now they get to come back and keep the money. And certainly guys like Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, and Tiger Woods left up almost like $1 billion on the table. So they're having a hard time getting over that, which is in the great scheme of things, we got to do kumbaya at some point. These tours have to get back together because you can't have a split like this. Because it's a niche sport and it's not big enough to handle a split like this.
How about the Live Championship? I mean, so the PGA was at Valhalla. And the Live, I mean, I'm not taking a shot here because it's a nice public track. We've had our outing there for the radio station. Yeah. But I mean, Bolingbrook Golf Club for the Live Championship.
I communicated with a buddy of mine who covers that tour really well, and he said they had it in Jeddah, it's Saudi Arabia. So I guess I don't know if that's that's not exactly the Shinnecock Hills of Saudi
the Middle East. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the issue that they're having, Dan, what happened was the framework agreement announcement legitimized the Saudi Tour, Live, as being, we're going to get back together with the PGA, and we're not the hated Saudi human rights abuser tour, right? So I think what I'm told is their business model changed a little bit. So instead of them going in and paying these courses a whole bunch of money to host their event, now they said, hey, we'd like you to pay us to come to your course. Well, there isn't a course in Chicago that would do that. And there were courses in Chicago that basically hung up on them and laughed at them when they told them how much money they were going to pay them. So I don't know what think the amount of money that every site gets a site fee from the organization. Valhalla got a site fee from the PGA of America. And if so, for example, at Rich Harvest Farms, I think there was a big donation that the PIF made to some Kids Golf Foundation, Jerry Rich's charity. So I don't know I'm not quite sure what the idea is for Bolingbrook. But I do know that I think that they were not on the same page as Jerry Rich out at Rich Harvest Farms this year. Otherwise, the tournament would be there.
Barry Cronin is the media director for the John Deere Classic. He's in Rock Island today getting ready for this year's tournament, which is July 4th through the 7th. John Deere Classic is always great. It's great to have professional golf in Illinois. He's also the editor of Chicago District Golfer at CDGA's Golfer Magazine, Illinois' largest golf magazine with more than 100,000 readers. Barry, thanks as always for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. And he